On Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, we're talking about tools to declutter your life. Have you found yourself in need of a pep talk and like a guide to remind you of your brilliance? Are you looking for a cheat sheet of ways to declutter your life? Would you like to know tools I use to keep my life clutter-free as much as possible? Learn about ways to keep focusing on living your best decluttered life as I wrap up my podcast, Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out. Does your clutter own you? On Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, we'll teach you how to become aware of your clutter, along with action steps to declutter and create the life you desire. Come on, let's get started. Hey everyone, I've got my Salt Water Heals Everything t-shirt on and feeling a little mixed emotion as I record this. This is it. I thought December 2021, I was going to be done with the podcast. I had extra episodes when I did Patreon. I started this podcast in September of 2013. So I'm going to end it with 10 years. And according to Libsyn, this is episode number 542. So that's a lot of episodes for you to listen to. If you've been a long-time listener, you know I'm a fan of layers. And so I'm going to encourage you to revisit episodes. You might hear something the second time around. This podcast was a labor of love for me. It was a way for me to give something back free. It's also available on YouTube, and it's been wonderful. And it's time to move on. A decade's a long time. Y'all have been through me a lot. My worst years, my mom dying, moving back to my hometown. It was after I married, right? Yes, after I'd married. I think I'd started the podcast after I'd gotten married. So anyway, it's a lot in the decade. I've been saying for a while that I want to start painting again. I have all my mom's paints, and I need to write a personal book, and I'm finishing up, hopefully at the end of this year, a book on end of life planning and organizing, and another journal prompt on end of life because I think it's such an important subject. But I really want to write these personal books, and the podcast takes up a lot of time, which I'm happy to do in energy, but it's time to figure out what is going to happen next. I've only done this once before. I dedicated the show on how to have a good death to my mom and her friends who helped me while she was dying. And so today, with the last episode, number 542, I'm going to do some dedications. First off, those currently in spiritual form who were a wonderful influence to me and I love dearly. Obviously, my mom, Jen, who I know is still around in the form of butterflies, my cats, Joey and Athena, and my grandmother, Sybert. In a case of everything works out for a reason, I'm living in my grandmother's house. This wasn't what I knew as a child, but when she downsized after my grandfather died, I'm in her house. So that's kind of cool. To those who helped me on this earthly plane, my husband, Tony, who supports me a bazillion percent. He is the best thing that ever happened to me, and proof I believe that I was good, at least in a couple past lives. My hope is you find your Tony, someone who loves you unconditionally, has your best interests at heart, and is a true partner to walk with you through life. Our cats, Antonio, Nini, and Gus, who remind me to be present and have joy, and who just bring me so much joy. My father, Big J, who I found a shared passion in playing tennis again, and we practice weekly, and it's been great having him as a father and seeing him a little differently now that my mom has passed on. And I couldn't have asked for a better mother. I couldn't have asked for a better father, and I'm truly grateful for him. And so this show is dedicated to him as well. To all the teachers who've supported my growth, most especially Judy Nelson, and I've done a couple interviews with her that are really lovely. To all the women who've been true friends, particularly Cotty, my BFF, my nieces Emma and Claire, and my nephew Max, who keep me on my toes and laughing and competitive. And finally, this is dedicated to you, the viewers and listeners. You are who I did this podcast for. And nothing makes me happier when someone reaches out to me and lets me know how the episodes have inspired you and how they've changed your life. You are doing it. You are doing this work and you're making a difference. You've created change in the world because as you've decluttered your life, you've been a light for others. You show them they can do it and you've given them permission to do so. Well done. I'm proud of each and every one of you. Today's episode was inspired because I had more thoughts I wanted to leave you with. It's kind of hard to summarize. 540 episodes, the last two are kind of summaries, but I feel at this moment, these are things that are important and I wanted you to recognize. I had done in the previous episode, try to sum up everything. And so my hope is if you need to be inspired or need to get energized or you're sad and afraid or you're feeling stuck, that this will serve as a guide for you to reawaken your brilliance along with the previous episode. Like the previous episode, I grouped together some concepts in the 10 tips because I'm like, it's really hard to narrow it down to 10. And then I thought went well together. As with the last episode, each of these topics has a complete podcast episode on it. So if you listen to something, you're like, go find the episode on it and I'll go into more details and of course with take actions for you because awareness plus action equals change. I hope that that's something that you keep with you. So first tip, create good boundaries. Boundaries allow you to respect yourself and have a good concept of who you are. Give yourself permission to set boundaries and don't apologize when you do. Pay attention to those who don't honor your boundaries because they're trying to push past that and they're giving you a message when they do that. And follow through with your boundaries and set them. And if you feel some guilt or sadness or confusion after the fact, that's a-okay. Embrace those emotions, but continue to set boundaries. Pay attention to when you're being gaslit. I had a neighbor who trespassed through our yard. They had some construction going on, and it's like, you just can't go through our yard, just go through the other way. And he tried to mansplain to me and gaslight me, and I was like, dude, it's not happening. I had these new neighbors dump these huge rocks in our yard, and a woman tried to dismiss it. And I'm like, you complained to the city when they were going to do something in your yard. Don't try to gaslight me and invalidate what I'm feeling or make me feel like I'm the crazy one. That's what happens when someone gaslights it. You wouldn't tolerate it, and I shouldn't have to either. See, sometimes when people try to gaslight you, it's something they wouldn't tolerate, but they're more than happy to allow you to do that. I'm not going to let you gaslight me. I've had to say that to people. So as a reminder, some of the signs that you might be gaslit include when people dismiss your feelings, say you're crazy, they're telling blatant lies, they're hypocrites, they try to convince you that someone else is lying. I only did it because I love you. Or my all-time favorite, you're too sensitive. I can't tell you how often I've been told that I am way too sensitive. Begin to recognize when it's happening and think twice about those people in your life that are gaslighting you. Get support and leave those relationships in the rearview mirror. Learn how to work with negative people or people who suck. You can't escape them, so make sure that you know how. You can end a relationship, you can create a boundary, you can call them out, you can stand up for yourself. I found when you call people out and say, hey, that's not okay, a lot of times they tend to back off. Now, not always, but they tend to leave you alone if you make that boundary, if you say, hey, it's not okay to treat me like that. But you have to be able to negotiate that. For example, if you are a parent and you have to co-parent, you've got that child and you have to remember what's best for the child. So that might be a relationship you have to navigate with an ex, but that doesn't mean you have to spend time with them. It doesn't mean that you you have to allow them to treat you poorly. But just figure out a way that's going to work for you to navigate those challenging relationships. Number 2, is that the hill you want to die on? Where are you spending your energy? Do you want to put all this time and effort into an argument on Facebook or with someone you disagree with politically and you know they're never going to change? I mean, forget it. We have these conspiracy theories and it doesn't matter with some people. You show them the facts, they're not going to listen. And is that how you want to spend your time and effort? When you're doing that, you're focusing on what doesn't matter and you're creating clutter. Remember my definition of clutter. Clutter is anything that prevents you from creating the life you choose, deserve, and desire. So does the cost outweigh the benefit? Will you have any regrets or headache if you respond? Remind yourself it's always okay to walk away from something. Being resilient. In general, how can you be more resilient? You are going to face all kinds of obstacles and judgments and challenges. How can you bounce back? I was on a Facebook discussion and someone said, "Hey, I want to send my kid to this college, but it would cost a lot and we'd go into debt." And I said, I belong to a bunch of financial freedom groups on Facebook and this topic has come up. And all of them have said, you know what? Absolutely not. Don't go into debt for college. And so this person responded, "Well, that's all about money and not growth." And I was like, you know what? You can bloom where you are planted. Life doesn't always work out as it should. I had to leave my junior year of college because we ran out of money. So I went to WVU, my state school, and then came back my senior year to be able to graduate. But life happened. My parents didn't have the money. I could have complained, could have been bitter. Instead, I said, well, let's make the best of this year and see what can happen. It was great. WVU was a completely different experience than my small women's college. But I feel in general, we have lost our ability to be resilient. And that's something that's super important. Have your group of people you can rely on, have good self-care, and control what you can and get perspective. If you don't get into the college of your choice, it's not the end of the world. But be resilient and come up with a plan to be able to do that. Most likely in your life, you are going to have injustice happen. I don't know if I know anyone who hasn't faced this in some way, shape, or form. When you have an injustice happen, make sure you have all the facts, see how it rates in your life. Is it annoying to have these huge rocks in our yard? 9 months. Should they not have done it? Should they have asked permission? Absolutely. But looking back, the HOA is an example. If you've been a long time listener, compared to how they gaslit us and all that junk, it's a blip on the radar. Try and reframe your focus. Oh, okay. You know what? They did that, then they better not complain when we get some work done on our house if we have stuff on their property. And become present, right? Your point of power to change is in the present moment. See the bigger picture, right? That when we're super focused like that, sometimes we don't see the possibilities of what else can happen or what else can be. Figure out what you need to do to get closure and gain your peace of mind back and figure out a way to move forward. Number 3, judge less. When you judge another, you're judging yourself. If you were completely judgment-free about yourself, you wouldn't feel the need to judge others. Not fun when we're judged, so try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Be compassionate. Try to see life as gray rather than black or white. I used to be very black and white in my thinking, and as I've gotten older, life isn't always black and white. It tends to be gray. When you do that, you understand that everything isn't so cut and dried and that maybe they need compassion instead of judgment. If you find yourself judging, and hey, we're all going to do it, turn it around to see what you need to do, where you can improve in your life or where you can be a better person. Remember, we're always going to try to bring it back to us. Whenever stuff like this comes up, I always try. Do I succeed? No, I try to figure out what within me needs to be healed. Learn to be flexible and go with the flow. Practice the art of allowing and releasing the need to control it all. I like to use the analogy of a straw. If I'm having my smoothie, and I've been doing keto, guys, I haven't had fruit, and I'm hopeful that I can get a smoothie this summer. But if I try to hold on really tight to the straw, nothing's going to get through. But when I release that straw and when I don't hold on super tight, then that yummy smoothie can flow to me and be yummy in my mouth. Where are you not allowing? Maybe you need to rest and you don't give your body a break and you shouldn't exercise 6 days a week. Maybe you need to do 5 or 4 this week. Consider practicing a physical art of allowing, like Tai Chi. I like to float in the ocean. Accept things as they are and believe that the best outcome is happening. Maybe you call it divine timing. Find your gratitude for whatever is when you allow life to unfold. If you're wanting to control, some need isn't being met. Dig deeper to figure out what that is. I'm going to encourage you to rest and relax more. Give your mind, body, spirit a break. It helps reduce stress, helps your immune system. It allows you to find solutions and be more creative and more productive. And that's when you have the breakthroughs. I've talked a lot about when I started my business in 2009. And until I met my husband, I could think about my business 24/7. That wasn't really good for me. I have learned I take naps often in the afternoon. I have to admit I do still have some insomnia, but if I need to rest, I allow myself to do that. Ask yourself, what do you need a break from? Journaling, playing, nature, solitude, breath, a nap, dance, snuggie with the cats. I just have to do an aside here. Someone complained on a review that I said snuggie with the cats. I obviously said a snuggie with the cats more than once, and they got all bent out of shape. Meditate. Look at all areas in your life where you need to rest and relax more. Feel stuck, but have no clue what you need to do to move forward? Would you like to feel energized and excited every day? Are you ready to create the life you desire? Julie Coraccio supports you in finding the answers within and then taking action to make changes happen. Visit reawakenyourbrilliance.com to learn how Julie can support you with life coaching. Number 4, who is stealing your joy? Really pay attention to this. It can be subtle, but these people can be huge drains. I made excuses for people for a long time when they absolutely sucked. I no longer do that. And I've also decided that if people are miserable, okay, that's your path. That's what you're choosing. You're making a choice with that. It doesn't mean that I have to tolerate it. I just say no longer. You can wish them the best, but don't let those people suck your joy out of life. People used to tell me all the time that I was too sensitive and that I was wrong. It is a gift if you are sensitive. If you get overwhelmed easily, maybe you struggle to let go of negative thoughts, you feel hurt easily, you feel awkward in social situations and big groups. I am personally not a fan of crowds and lights, and negative news really affects you, then you may be sensitive. Learn how to make being sensitive work for you. Recognize and honor your emotions. Let people know if you're overstimulated or overwhelmed. Have a plan to manage your stress and be compassionate to yourself. Look at the gifts that being sensitive can give you. You pick up on how others feel. You can usually read people well. You notice colors and sounds and textures more fully. You tend to have greater empathy, more open-hearted and connective, and sensitive people tend to be more creative. What are your gifts? Embrace good enough. Really, really learn how to embrace this. Where do you accept not being good enough? And maybe you have a little bit of perfectionism or unrealistic standards. When I was I was doing something with the podcast recently, and I was like, you know what? It's good enough. And I remember several years ago, I used to edit out every time I say or I would be like, oh, I don't know if I phrased that right. And do I need to reshoot it? I no longer do that. My podcast is awesome. And if there's a little or you know what? You're going to live. You're still going to get the essence of it. So I wouldn't spend hours. Like it would take me 2 hours to edit a 20-minute episode. So that was one way that I embraced being good enough. So figure out where you don't feel like you're good enough. Here's ways to embrace that. Stop comparing, unplug, be aware of that negative voice, write down all your awesome qualities and adjust your standards. None of us are perfect. And you know what? Sometimes good enough is actually pretty amazing. Know how to start over. Probably all of us are going to have to start over. Where in life do you feel stuck right now? Maybe you need a whole life reset. Make peace with your past and view it as a lesson, not a mistake. Be like an archaeologist and review what went wrong, and wrong is in quotation marks because I tend to not believe that things are wrong. It's just kind of how they're happening in life. Remind yourself of your successes, and we all have them. Create excitement about the change. I used to be like a cat, and oh my gosh, I was like, oh, afraid of change. Now I don't quite embrace it, but I am a lot better with change. And when we downsized from Raleigh to Andrew, I'm like, this is it. No more moving for me. Then my mom got sick, right? It wasn't part of the plan to move back to West Virginia. So I was like, how can I get excited about this? Remind yourself what's important. Figure out a plan. You got to start over, write out all those steps that you need to do, and get yourself some really good support. Number 5, focus on what matters most. If you're not clear, get clear. Take the time to figure this out. I've always said that family matters most. And as an example, my brother travels a bit overseas for work. And so I was tag teaming with my dad to help out the kids. And so for 10 days, I had a very light schedule. Because if I needed to be called, I wanted to be able to do that. So I put my money where my mouth was. I didn't have a lot of business that week. Yeah, it would have been nice, yes and no. But I said, hey, this is what matters most to me. So I'm going to make sure that my time reflects that. Write it down if you need to. Schedule the time based on what matters most to you. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with someone and they said X is important. I said, yeah, but your schedule says Y. So this dovetails into creating a vision statement. This can be a great exercise to figure out what's most important. It's a bigger picture of your life. Who do you want to be when you grow up? Is there something you'd like to be an expert in and known for? What is it you want to accomplish? What do you need to do so you wake up excited and happy each day? Your vision can help you. It serves as a framework for you to create your goals, the life you desire. Encourage you to write something down and put it where you can see it, a daily roadmap reminder. Dream big, get detailed, and hold yourself accountable. Regularly check in with your statement because life happens and there's a good chance it'll need to be tweaked or changed completely. Staying the course. How do you stay the course? You've got these goals, you've got these dreams. How well do you believe in yourself? How is it showing up in your life? You're like, oh man, I just want to quit. How are you doubting yourself? What do you need to do to release your doubt and fears and keep going? Set goals that you can achieve. Have milestones. Those are going to help you stay the course. How will you handle challenges? How can you reward yourself? What support do you need? I like to, besides writing, having goals and breaking them down, I'm a huge fan of visualizing. This is what I want to create. I talked a moment ago about a vision statement. A vision board, I'm very visual, is another way that's a great reminder. It's something you can create, it's fun, and then you put it where you can see it. So bam, in a glance. Okay, this is why I need to stay the course. Learn to be able to receive. Can you receive a compliment? How about a gift? How about help? Know that you deserve to receive. Be clear about what you desire and ask yourself, what kind of giver are you? Do you give openly and with love, or with an expectation of something in return? Resist the urge to deny a gift. You can practice thanking someone. You can share your gratitude. You can work on opening your heart. One of the best things is I was always a giver, giver, giver. And my husband's the same way. And we met and we have both supported each other and learning how to receive more. And I have to tell you, receiving's pretty nice. I was a giver for so much of my life and then found this wonderful man, and receiving helps me. And when I do that, I allow others to receive and show them, hey, it's okay. It's about give and take. We don't always have to be the givers. Number 6, hope. Try and always have. This too shall pass. Remind yourself how you got through other rough stuff. And remind yourself when everything seemed magical and life just flowed together. Ask yourself what else is possible. Get outside. Examine who you're hanging out with. Find inspiration. Find those nuggets even when it's really hard. How can I have gratitude? Feel everything. Be kind. Breathe. When I was going through my really horrible year, the one thing that I have my husband. I'm so grateful for Tony. I'm so grateful for the cats. That was one thing when I struggled to have hope. I could always be grateful for those two. I think we just had Antonio and Joey at that point. Write what you need to do. Do what you're able to. Like I said, I could only for a while. Okay, I'm thankful for Tony, Joey, and Antonio. Do for someone else. I found when I do for others that I get the most benefit. I feel wonderful. Find support, be patient, let go of your expectations, and try to forgive. We can lose hope when we're grieving. Learn how to deal with grief and response to loss. We always think of death mainly as what causes us to grieve, but it could be divorce, loss of health, job, finances, death of a pet, the loss of safety after trauma. It's important to acknowledge your pain. Joey was 19 and we had to help him cross in June. And it's always amazing to me people who minimalize. Like, well, it's not a person. Well, it's a pet. Please don't ever do that to anyone. So it's important. I did a post about it. I did a post when my mom died as a way of acknowledging my pain. Except that, grieving's a unique process and different things might trigger you. It's important to get support. It's important to have really good self-care. Recognize your grief, and then you need to be aware if it has gone on for a while and become depression. And it's, of course, understandable how that can be, but I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind. It's been a couple years. Maybe I need to talk to someone and get some support. Express your feelings no matter what they are. Don't make them right or wrong, and face them. Besides good self-care, maintain your hobbies or whatever brings you joy. Reach out to friends that you love. Be aware of your triggers. If you're just like, you know what, I can't go out with the girls tonight because it's going to remind me of my time with my mom, that's okay. Give yourself that grace. If you know someone grieving, don't tell them how to feel. Don't tell yourself how to feel. Know how to help someone who is grieving. Ask them how they feel. Let them talk and be okay with silence. I think in this culture, we're like, oh my gosh, can't have silence. Ask how you can help. Be aware of saying things like, oh, they're in a better place now. It's time to get on with your life. You should or you will. Stay away from should and will statements. But just know that grief is a part of life. Allow it to happen and have a plan and support system for good care. Understand that anger can be healing. I have a Ruth Bader Ginsburg t-shirt that says better bitch than mouse. Anger can empower you. When we're angry and share that, we give others permission to do that. Anger allows us to heal deeper, express deeper emotions. It allows us to communicate better, setting boundaries. It helps keep us safe. It allows us to reclaim our power. It can serve as a catalyst for being creative. I want to encourage you that anger can have a healing component. Now, if you're just ranting and raving and angry all the time, that's not what I'm talking about. But as opposed to seeing anger as something bad, feel and understand how it can support you. Learn how to express it. You might not know how. I know I always felt like the message was women can't get angry. And a lot of us are taught that, oh, don't get angry. You might upset others, or you feel guilt when you express anger, or someone might be like, I don't want to deal with this. You can't get angry, right? They're all things that might prevent us from doing so. But I'm encourage you to express your anger. Take a deep breath. You can express anger not just by saying you're angry. Scream into a pillow. Do some fighting. I had a punching bag, used to do that. When you express your anger, it allows you to stop replaying. I found when I replay something or ruminate, it's because I haven't been able to express my anger. And I had a great conversation with my brother in the pool. Was it last year or 2 years ago? And he's like, you seem angry a lot. And as we were talking, I ended up crying. And so I know a lot of times when I get super angry, crying helps to release. But what I figured out is it's because I'm not allowed to say, hey, you cheated us when you bought the house and lied to us and didn't tell us that the basement was flooded. Like, who does that? And so something that's important to me is to be able to express my anger. If you're able to get neutral about it, then you can express it. Again, if you have a lot of anger, that's going to say, hey, you know what? I need some outside support for that. Where do you need peace in your life? Where do you need to make peace? Maybe need to make peace about an art project, being good enough instead of being perfect. I have a sign as I glance over here. Do you want to be right or do you want peace? I have to remind myself that sometimes more days than others. Important to make peace with something in your past. Maybe you need to forgive someone and make peace with that person. Contemplate. This is something that I hope you ask yourself regularly. Where do I need peace in my life? There might be a couple places, might be times that you roll through life and it's good and everything's content, but regularly check in with yourself and ask yourself, where do I need peace? Our affirmations for decluttering support you in releasing clutter at a deeper level. The meditation begins with focused statements on releasing clutter, followed by powerful positive affirmations for healing, and end with completion statements. The affirmation concludes with a reaffirming meditation exercise to fill where clutter was released. 9 clearing clutter affirmations to choose from. Go to reawakenyourbrilliance.com to learn more. Number 7, I hope you always to continue to grow into who you're meant to be. If you're not moving forward, you're dying a little bit each day. So live well every day. Where are you stagnant in your life? Here are some signs that you're growing. You question your beliefs. You don't see yourself as a victim. You're working to resolve your hurt and pain. You might have fear, but you do it anyway. To grow, understand your work in progress. I am a work in progress and will be that way until I take my last breath. Adjust your habits. Play. Don't forget to play. So many times we don't have fun as we get older. Do some self-examination and work on your crap, to put it bluntly. Life is not going to change if you don't work on your stuff. I was talking with someone the other day, and it's so interesting to me that I've met people and they're the same as they were 30 years ago. And that to me is not a compliment. That means they haven't grown and they've stayed stagnant, have the same views they did 30 years ago. That's not healthy to me. You're not moving forward. You're not growing into who you're meant to be when you're like that. You're staying stagnant. So always grow. Take time to examine your wounds. I believe it boils down to love and hate, and everything extends from that. Or as I would like to say, probably better than hate, as I often say, feeling not good enough, not worthy enough, or loved. I think whatever the thing is that's going on, we can distill it down to that. So that's how I'd sum it up. Maybe you feel disapproval, invalidated, rejected, misunderstood, not listened to, invisible, inadequate, defective, insulted, discounted, like a failure or a loser, undeserving, guilt or shame, or like you're a bad person. Those are all coming from wounds. Why are you afraid? As I mentioned a moment ago, you have to do the work. Don't allow yourself to remain powerless. When we don't examine our wounds, they keep us powerless. You do that by naming and claiming your wounds. You can flip your thinking of how your wounds have helped you, made you who you are, made you a better person. You know what it's like to have someone who's cruel to you, so you're never going to be cruel to someone else. Remember to own what is yours. What others do and say is about them. How you respond is about you. Express what you need to, release those wounds, and move forward. Ask yourself, what mask are you wearing? Where do you have one? And here are some ways you might be wearing a mask. You don't express your feelings. You're resentful. You show off. You're manipulative. Maybe you judge a lot. Maybe you remain in your comfort zone and you wear that mask because you don't want anyone to see the real you. Now, you may be doing this because you seek approval as a way to shore up your self-esteem, fear of rejection. People won't like the real me. So how you remove that mask? You release grudges. You learn from your mistakes, end quote, because I don't believe that mistakes, when life happens, unless you do them over and over and over again willfully. Don't see others as needing their approval. Don't be a people pleaser. Don't go with the crowd, and learn how to open your mind. Number 8, where have you lost your humanity? Where did you dehumanize people? I don't think it's okay to have kids in cages at the border. And if you believe that, perhaps you need to examine if you've lost your humanity. I'm going to encourage you to do some self-reflection. A wealthy church that doesn't open its door to flood victims, people who took out the PPP loans and don't need it and are wealthy. In my view, those are 3 examples of where people have lost their humanity. Be aware of what language you use to dehumanize people. Thug, animal, the C and P words. Why do you do that? Probably a way to feel empowered. And then I want you to flip it around. Where have you felt dehumanized? Practice empathy and hang with different people. Hang out with people who don't look like you, think like you, act like you. Take time to heal relationships. When you heal your relationships, you shift and you change your energy, and it allows you to attract and bring in more relationships that you desire. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about abusive relationships. You're being abused, gaslit, treated poorly, get out and get support. But here are just a quick ways to begin to heal your relationships. Accept responsibility in all your relationships. What was your part in it? If you see yourself as not a victim, that's going to support you a long way in healing. Stop keeping score. How are you keeping score in your relationships? You do this tit for tat thing, really going to be a roadblock to healing. See all of your connections as imperfectly perfect, right? We're all working the best we can. We all have different paths to take. If you see your connections as imperfectly perfect and trying, that can go a long way to heal. When you heal yourself, you allow others to heal. Spiritual bypassing or spiritual override. Where are you doing this and where are you having it done to you? Examine both of those. You might be like, oh, only love and light, no negative stuff. Oh, I killed this guy, but he killed me in another life. It's about making excuses as taking a higher path for bad behavior, not meeting people where they are. If you put out healthy boundaries and they discourage that, that's you can check out if they're doing the spiritual bypassing. It's about intellectualizing instead of feelings. And if you think you're doing the spiritual bypassing, check in with people. I belong to this women's group, and we're like, oh, yeah, we're all these high vibing things. They were some of the meanest. Nah, it's cult light. That's one of my projects that I want to do. I want to write about my experience because you all know how much personal growth is important to me. That's why I do this podcast and spirituality is. And I want people to hopefully not go through what I did, but they were just some mean women. And at first I was like, oh, you need to be the better person. You need to rise above it all. That's another clue, rising above it all, right? No, I need to get angry and have some boundaries and scream and shout and say it's not okay to treat me that way. You have to do the work. And I think I've probably mentioned that more than once because that's an important one. I didn't do that as a separate one. Be wary of those who say you'll find bliss in a second and that there is one way and the only way, especially when you're doing this work, personal growth work, spiritual work, even religious work. Pay attention to those who are doing that. But remember, where are you doing it and where are you having it done to you? Number 9, stop being the martyr. Now, you might do this because you don't have a lot of self-worth. Maybe there's some depression. Maybe you've been abused. You do it to avoid guilt and shame or to not take responsibility. So here are signs that you might be a martyr. Always saying yes. Got to do the quid pro quo. You complain, but okay, I'll do it. Refuse assistance. Ah, they achieved this all because of me. Never your fault. You're always a saint. Exaggerate your suffering. You're the noble sufferer. Or you're always kvetching about something. So how do you stop? You have boundaries with people who are martyrs. You can acknowledge their work they've done, but you don't get sucked into a pity party. You call them out on something, and you can gently call out people on something. And you stop being a martyr by increasing your self-esteem, creating a new role, taking responsibility, owning your life, and doing self-growth work. And if you're here listening to it, you started that. Revenge. And I believe in the previous episode, I talked about victim. That's another really important thing. So make sure you review that. How much time and energy are you putting into revenge? Now, I never saw the ending, but I know we watched the first couple seasons of Revenge. And you think, oh my gosh, all the planning that she did for revenge. We had someone, so we were harassed with the solar thing. And because I caught out these neighbors who were such huge hypocrites. I kid you not. 12:21 a.m. in the morning, our cameras caught it. This lady solely, all she does is go on and on about what a Christian she is and how she loves Jesus. And I mean, those signs in the yard and just like talk about a martyr. 12:21 a.m. on Christmas, which is a holy day. That's because that's all you talk about, what a great Christian you are. And I'm not slamming her because she's a Christian. This is who she says who she is, and these are her actions. She is spending 12:20 a.m. at a sacred holiday out in front of our house, watching us, trying to intimidate us. Well, it's passive aggressive, obviously, because we were asleep and just trying to intimidate. because she had to get revenge because I called her out on her hypocrisy. That to me is nuts. And I like to think of revenge as a donut. It feels really good eating at the time, but I don't feel good later. I know I personally believe in karma. So whatever you put out, you get back. That's what I try to tell myself when I want to think about doing something crazy. It can also backfire. You could, when these people were harassing us, they're walking a fine line with breaking the law. I ended up calling the police because there were a couple people that didn't. One of the reasons that kept me from acting was that Soli's husband had I heard on the street that he had guns and he was a drinker. Who knows if he would have gone nuts and pulled out a gun? You just don't know these days. And so you can violate the law, can backfire. I'm just like, just stand outside on Christmas Eve and you do you. I'm not going to escalate it. But, because this is really, in one hand, trying to be threatening. It's in this way, was very passive aggressive, trying to get revenge. And then, you can get caught in that loop and it might be hard to get out. Like I mentioned, I could have escalated it and blah, 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 blah. Right. I mean, who wants that? So learn how to move on from wanting revenge. I'm a huge fan of the burning bowl. I like to write things up and watch them burn up. Have gratitude. Have an outlet for your anger, frustration. Focus on being the best you and start the forgiveness process, right? Those are all things that can lead you from revenge and move forward. Where are you the butthead? Now, Reddit has that famous thread, which can be really funny and really interesting. Am I the beep, beep? Where are you being a butthead? In your life, at work, at home, friends and family, your partner, spouse, significant other. Take a moment to be aware of where you're not being so nice and being a jerky McJerk face. Some of the times I'm a butthead. I take my frustration out on my husband. He's phenomenal. He should not put up with me sometimes when I'm a butthead. And I know that I can take out my frustrations with them because it's safe, but it's not healthy. I'm a butthead when I flip off someone in traffic. I'm much better after I moved out of LA. I'm a butthead when I'm stingy with my love for others, or I get into the reciprocity isn't being met. This is with people I love, not like random people on the street, but it takes a lot out of me. I mean, that's just being a butthead. That goes back to keeping score, right? That I mentioned a moment ago in relationships. I'm a butthead to myself when I eat too much or don't express my feelings. So spend some time increasing your awareness in this area. Imposter syndrome. We all have it. We all have self-doubts. Know that if you have imposter syndrome, how to get a handle on it. Maybe you haven't realistically assessed your goals. You're hard on yourself and your performance. You are an overachiever. Or maybe your goals are unrealistic. That can lead to anxiety and depression. There's types of perfectionist. You're an expert and can't be seen less than, or the same with genius, or only working alone. Just be aware of those things that might be fueling the imposter syndrome. So you overcome that by sharing your feelings. You don't worry about what others think. You realistically assess your abilities, questions your thoughts when those little doubts coming up. Stop comparing. Have a list of your biggest fans. I save all these emails that people write me. Don't hinge your identity to your success, and forgive yourself. Super important. You have all the answers within. Got Clutter, 365 journal prompts books support you in figuring out how to clear your clutter. Get control of your clutter so your clutter doesn't control you. Reclaim time, money, sanity, and resources. Choose from physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, holidays, relationships, financial, health, or compilation volumes. Free MP3 meditation with purchase. Learn more at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. All right, number 10, this is it. Know that your actions have consequences. Not just our thoughts that create our reality, it's our decisions, habits, beliefs, values, emotions. It's our psychology, our behavior, our actions. How you react to events, people, and circumstances in your life is determining how you feel on a daily basis. It's creating a chain of effects that are constantly transforming your destiny every single day. I believe we have free choice. I believe we said, hey, I'm going to do this, but then the future is written in pencil. We have the opportunity to change that. So you can make a different choice. You can choose to unlearn what you've learned and learn what it will take to trigger the causes that will create the effects of the desires that you'd like to experience in life. Here are some questions you can ask yourself. How are my thoughts causing, creating, and maintaining my current reality? How can I begin interpreting my world differently? How can I change my patterns of thinking? How can I model other people's successful behaviors, habits, decisions, thoughts, and actions? Know how to begin and end something. Some clues that you might need to begin or end. You say you can do something someday. Obviously, someday is never going to come. You create multiple conditions. I can't do X until Z happens. Feeling stuck's a big clue. Maybe something big happens. There's a fire or disaster. What was important no longer is. You quit your job or you've moved on mentally, emotionally, moved to a different state. You feel uninspired or big life change. I mentioned like marriage, divorce, a new job, you graduated. Maybe you need a change. Maybe you're just ready to embrace the present moment or you feel a sense of urgency or hope. To begin, feel your fear and do it anyway. Be realistic. Maybe you want a new job, but that's not going to happen tomorrow. What's the roadmap that we can do to create that? Understand what's holding you back from beginning again. Do at your own pace. Acknowledge small wins and remind yourself of the benefits. Here are some ways that you might need to begin anew. Here are some signals that you might need to end something. You don't trust, feeling stuck, you're not having fun or inspired. You don't want to spend your time that way. You're bored, it feels rote, you're tense, tired, or jealous. You need to end something, forgive yourself, and forgive others, right? That's going to help you end things nicely and move forward. Accept that it's time to move on. That doesn't mean anything's right or wrong. It's just time. Don't apologize. Never have to apologize for how you feel. Take the time to reflect what you've learned and get excited to try something new. Be accountable. It's important to be accountable because it gives you a clear purpose in life. You're going to do what you said you'd do. It helps you demonstrate progress, achieve your goals. You honor yourself when you do that. It allows you to move forward and not stay stuck. It helps you develop and build a reputation and reduce blame, conflict, and frustration. Now, some challenges to holding yourself accountable might be there's no pressure, no deadline, not clear on how you achieve what you need to. You're unsure what to do or where to start, or maybe you're doing it to avoid something. So, how can you be more accountable? Have a good attitude. Long lasting change takes time and effort. Learning lessons is part of it. Your investment. Take responsibility, no excuses. Keep track, write stuff down, create goals. Know your motivation, why something's important to you. And understand your motivations. Make a promise to yourself that you're going to care for yourself. Create a schedule. Be aware of your habits. Manage your time well. Check in and examine your progress. Life happens, goals change. Need to be accountable, but also realistically accountable. Create a plan. What are your distractions and how are you going to overcome that? What are the obstacles and challenges? How are you going to get through that? Always get support. Really, the people that you're around the most are really influence you. Own your feelings and manage expectations. Have a deadline and learn from, again, they're not mistakes, they're lessons. Take actions from today's podcast, the last podcast episode of Clear Your Clutter Inside Out. Have strong boundaries, know when you're being gaslit, and learn to work with not so great people. Fight for what matters most, learn to be resilient, and deal with injustice. Judge yourself and others less, embrace the art of allowing, and make time for resting and relaxing. Know who steals your joy, embrace your sensitivity, and being good enough, know when you need to start over. Focus on what matters most. Create a vision for your life and learn how to receive. Never give up hope. Understand the grieving process. Use your anger to empower you and find what brings you peace. Continue to grow into who you're meant to be. Examine your wounds and masks. Don't do the spiritual override. Recognize when you lose your humanity. Heal your relationships. Say what needs to be said. Release being a martyr and having a need for revenge. Don't be a butthead and kick imposter syndrome to the curb. Know your actions have consequences. Understand how to begin and end things and be accountable to yourself and others. And the last two that are worth repeating as I leave you: love. Love some more. Choose love every time you can. And when you believe you've nothing left to give, love. You are good enough, worthy enough, and loved no matter what. Let me repeat this truth. You are good enough, worthy enough, and loved no matter what. It's been a privilege to have you as an audience. I've gotten to know some of you personally. It's been an honor, and you all inspire me. Going forward, I'll keep the podcast up. I have to pay to host, so it could go away. I have a free twice monthly newsletter at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. I have all my social media links there. You can find me there. I'm doing a lot of shorts under a minute, but who knows for how long. I'd love to work with any of you one-on-one. I have books, classes, affirmations. If you're more of a DIYer, my works can support and guide you. I'm going to work on creating an affordable group once again, maybe 2024, maybe 2025. We'll have to see how that goes. Patreon was a bust. I'm trying to create a community. I think that's really important to me, but I have to find something that'll work for me and where when others join that they get excited and want to do and want to be a part of that community. I have another book being edited and hope to publish on end of life planning and organizing and the other end of life journal prompts. My big goals are, as I mentioned earlier in this episode, about writing about my personal journey, which I've referred to as Cult Light, and start painting again. I have said that, and it's time to put the rubber where the road meets. We are doing a lot of remodeling. I'll be happy when that's done. I had wanted Tony to create a bocce court, but I have started my Master Naturalist program for West Virginia. I'm really enjoying that and excited about that. And I think what I want to in the backyard, we don't have a big yard, is create a butterfly sanctuary. The monarch is endangered. My mother, one of the ways she's still around is butterflies. My mom was I can't tell you how many things, and I'd be grieving and I'd see a butterfly, especially right after she died, and I still continue to see them. So that's what working towards now. I have been focusing on my health in 2022, started exercising. in 2023, and at the end of 2022 started this program. I've lost weight, I've gained some muscle, not where I want to be, but the older you get, it's harder to lose weight. So anyway, these have been really wonderful lifestyle changes for me. And playing tennis, which has been good for me physically, mentally, and socially. And I'm just feeling really good about my life. And I hope that you all will stay in touch. Reawakenyourbrilliance.com. I don't plan on that changing. That is the place to find me. I'm working on Tony to get another cat. So send some good vibes that I can make this happen. We are hopefully going to travel some more, and we are going on a cruise. We've never been on a cruise, and we're going to Alaska for our 10-year anniversary in September. I'm excited about that. That marks the 50th and final state for me. And I have a whole bucket list of places that I want to travel. Don't be strangers. Reach out to me. Come and be part of the community that I create, and just check in with me and let me know how you're doing. Go out, clear your clutter to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire. Clearing your clutter allows you to share your gifts with the world. Get your free self-assessment to discover your clutter priority at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. If you've enjoyed Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, please rate, review, and share us.